And who do you believe is the man of lawlessness in Paul's second epistle to the Thessalonians? From the research
Yeah,
that I've done, it appears that the letter was written by a pro Titus faction in response to the elimination for Christians to follow the law under Emperor Domitian's leadership, which would place Domitian, Emperor Domitian himself, as the quote, man of lawlessness, end quote.
yeah. Uh, that is one of the possibilities. Well, first of all, I'm not sure that the man of lawlessness can be identified with complete, certainty. I think that the logic in the passage, in my opinion, requires sort of understanding the humor with which the Pauline literature and the letters were written with. And it's very, it has a kind of self denigrating kind of humor, which is to understand it, you have to think of the following facts: is that Domitian is responsible for the Pauline material and for Revelation. I mean, I show
Yeah.
that analysis in Shakespeare's Secret Messiah. And he sees himself basically as another iteration of Christ or of Jesus. Remember, these are just names. They don't act to the Flavian authors of the New Testament. They don't mean anything really. They're just names that you can apply to anyone who has the political power to be able to force people to worship him. And so, in that passage, where the law of man of lawlessness is mentioned, I think actually the person that is being identified is in fact Titus. Um, he is the sorry, I had to let my cat out.
Yeah.
Um, he is the law of the law of the man of lawlessness is Titus, and he's the one who creates the delusion. I mean, the critical passage statement in you know in it is the concept of the God has created a powerful delusion. Now, why would the author, say such a thing? God creating a delusion. I mean, this is head scratching if this is legitimate theology. But in terms of Flavian humor, it's, I think, self-evident. He's referring actually to the Gospels. That's the delusion, and the Gospels are basically being, in a way, transcended by the Pauline letters, which are ascribing a new Caesar as having the power of Jesus, power, this name, this title. So it is very hard to understand because you have to not only recognize the nature of the Gospels, but then recognize that Domitian was trying in a way, to transcend the character Jesus Christ in with his Pauline materials. So it makes it really complicated, and uh, and then which is even worse is I think that Trajan got involved with and with Timothy. So the Caesars fiddled with the Gospels. I think each of them who were involved with it were trying to create a way to attach on to the legacy that they were hoping that Christianity would eventually produce. But the legacy would be created by the revelation that the literature was false. We talked about this last time, that it's just sort of horrifying to realize that the purpose of the Gospels is to delude. Remember this concept: God has created a powerful delusion,
Mm-hmm.
and that the man of lawlessness is engaged with. So you have this powerful delusion, which eventually is done away with, and then you get to see everything. Well,
Mm-hmm.
the delusion is the idea that the Gospels are a sincere religious literature, the dispelling of the delusion is the moment where, like basically the analysis of Caesar's Messiah becomes understood. People realize they've been fooled, and then they are, in a moment where they have inside of them the legacy that the Caesars wanted them to have, that they see the genius of the people who produced Christianity and created the delusion is horrifying, but is also powerful, so that they have their immortality. You see, so this is the hardest thing, in my opinion, to understand about the kind of Roman origin of the Gospels and the typology, is that the people who are producing this are doing it simply for legacy. I mean, think how complicated the typology in the Gospels that I kind of get into in Caesar Messiah. It's very complicated literature, hard to produce, and it's supposed to be hidden, but then eventually be revealed, and so it's just very sophisticated literature. Why would they do it? They're strictly doing it for legacy. They are doing it because of their vanity. So this is the hard thing to understand, really, about the New Testament, is that it is a vanity piece that is really a document of the imperial cult. The imperial cult, wherein the Caesars were worshipped as gods, human gods, had literature that was associated with it. Panegyrics. These are homages to the divine Caesars. Well, there was all kinds of, there's statues of the Caesar gods. There's the Arch of Titus, where they are actually, Titus and Vespasian are called gods, God the Father, the Son of God. And so, this is where the New Testament comes from. It comes from that world, that thought world, where the Caesars are presenting themselves as God for political power. There was this rebellion in Judea. This war was really fought over who would be the Son of Man, who would claim the title, And the Caesars won, and then they produced the New Testament to try to, shape Judaism in a certain way that would, be able to fit into the Roman Empire,
Yeah.
without rebellion. And of course, this failed, but that really wasn't the important part of it to them. The important part was the vanity. So when you come to, like two theologians, you're really looking at humor and vanity, because the Caesars, even though they were producing, all of this imperial cult statues and literature, they knew perfectly well it was all rubbish. You see, I mean, they weren't insane to that extent. It was just a political, kind of technique, and what was real to them was legacy. They really wanted to be remembered, and they thought that was that was really all that they could do at that point in time. I mean, they couldn't live forever. They couldn't conquer any more of the world than they had. And so this was what was of interest to them, was immortal legacy. And this is why they wrote the New Testament. And this is why the Man of Lawlessness is actually one of them. And this, of course, this is repeated in Revelation, where you have the pit and people coming out of the pit, and these horrible individuals, and they are mocking themselves in a way. You see, they're actually anticipating how the population will view them later on, and this is just their sense of humor.